So this is a topic I love to cover, and it's by far my specialty and my passion when it comes to drawing and art. It's creating characters. And the reason I want to make this video is because I see a lot of people struggle with character design or even have a huge misconception on what character design should be, at least in my opinion. All right. But I can tell you that giving this talk that I gave at quite a few events has landed me more jobs than I could ever imagine. So I dare to say that people do really connect to what I have to say concerning this matter particularly, and it does fit a lot of people's vision of what they want for their characters in games or in film. So I'm going to break it down. I have uploaded this talk in short a little bit, but now I'm going to give you the entire thing. I had to exclude some of the NDA stuff that is in the thing that I like to share on events, but unfortunately online I cannot do that. I want to make this video to help you better understand how to put personality in your characters. That's the entire premise of this video, but this video is in fact a rant about the horrible things that I see going on in the entertainment industry right now. So we're going to get into it. Personality and character design. So the reason I want to give this talk and to give you a bit of a backstory about me is I'm Antonio. I'm a character concept artist. I had my own studio called Sketch Studio that I recently dissolved because I also had Artwod, which is an online learning platform, which I just wanted to focus on more because it's my company. I have more control. Whereas Sketch was a service studio, basically being a vendor for buyers. And it was fun. It was great. It was much more lucrative than the thing I have going on now, but I just like to be in control. That's it. But I'm going to give you everything I learned from my time being a concept artist and an art director. So one of the major things that I see that people have a misconception about is like, what is a character? So we're going to start off this video with a bit of a quiz. And I just want you to do this while I'm asking you, because of course, no one's here to answer me like they are in the events that I go to. But a bit of a quiz for you is, would you say this thing on the screen is a character or not? If you think yes, just say yes or type it in the comments. If you think no, that's fine too. So, do you think this is a character? Yes or no? And do you think this is a character? All right. So, going to Iron Man, for every one of you that said that Iron Man is a character, I want you to now think, okay, then who is this? Now, the smart people amongst you would say, this is Tony Stark. Well, that's true, but would you say he's Iron Man? Or would you say the suit is Iron Man? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Is the suit the character or is the person the character? Now, Jinx has been turned into a much better character by being animated in the show Arcane. And then Spider-Man is an interesting one as well, because a lot of you that are watching this also have asked the question, who's your favorite Spider-Man? Right? We have the comic book Spider-Man, but we have the live action Spider-Man as well, played by different Peter Parker characters. And you often ask yourself, who's your favorite Spider-Man? Therefore implying there are different versions of seemingly the same character, or there are different characters playing the same avatar. So we'll get into that. The reason I asked is because a lot of you want to get into the entertainment industry and you want to start designing characters. But here's the thing you plan on doing, which is actually a good thing. You have this vision of, I want to create characters. I want to add characters to worlds. I want to enrich worlds. Great. What you plan on doing, though, is usually create a costume. I see this all the time. This is what I see all the time. People are like, I'm a character designer, and they end up designing costumes. Now, usually what you end up doing actually is this, and that's why you need Artwod. So, getting into it, what is a character for me? Well, a character for me is an actor in a particular story with a set of objectives. That's all it is. Now, this actually is very layered. It's an actor in a story with objectives. Very important. This literally describes you and your life as well. You are an actor in life in a certain story or multiple stories, and you have a set of objectives in life. Okay? So actor is very important because it's the actor part of this that evokes emotion and empathy. And this is crucially important. And this is where the entertainment industry is doing a horrible job. So, characters, let's get into it. For me, a character has four things: they drive story, they evoke emotion, they are not talking costumes. Because remember, if we change this scene to this, it would look and feel completely different. And they are unique. Just like any one of you watching, you are unique in your actions, in your storyline, in your objectives. But one of the main important ones for me is evoking emotion. Because what that means, and I want you to remember this for the rest of the video, is that we want to relate to characters. And I'm going to come back to this, but we want to relate to characters. Now, a bit of the problem with games, and this has been an ongoing problem in general, obviously, is that we are living now in the, or we're actually getting out of it, luckily, is the games as a service kind of thing. And what that means is that they usually do these stupid things like stereotype swapping or identity swapping. And oftentimes what they end up creating as characters is sort of this identity politics of a costume or a walking costume with your face on top of that, a thing that you can identify with. And this is a very big distinction between a character and an avatar. And this is the trap almost everyone falls into these days. What I mean by that is me, as someone who loves entertainment, who loves video games, who loves film, I have some favorite characters. You can see them here on the screen on the left or the right. So I love Jinx. I love Django. I love Emily. I love Hans Landa as a character. I love Kratos as a character. Okay. Now, here's the thing. I relate to these characters, and this is very important. I relate to these characters because I relate to how they feel sometimes, their story, what they go through, how they think. But I do not identify as any of these characters. I don't identify as a gay SS soldier, okay? I don't. I don't identify, or I can't even identify as a African-American cowboy in the early 1900s or whatever era it is. I can't, all right? But I relate to how they feel, which is crucially important. Now, what are they trying to do to you these days in the entertainment industry? And what are you guilty of participating in? Is creating this sort of costume, team avatar. Everything is an avatar. Everything is like cookie cutter built to your exact identity and what you think a character should be. But here's the thing, you're no longer creating a character. There are no characters in this case. These are just avatars. And I'm not saying that there's no room for avatars, but I'm saying that there is a big distinction between them, and we are blurring the lines, or we have blurred the lines so hard that they are becoming indistinguishable, and that is hurting the entertainment industry as a whole. So again, to recap, a good character has a set of objectives, certain skills to reach those objectives. That's always the case. Now, if you want those skills to be more entertaining, they are usually larger than life skills or very superhuman like skills, but they can also just be detective skills, right? But at least you have skills to get to your objectives, just like you do in real life, and you have a certain look. Now, I can tell you from a professional experience and just the entertainment industry in general, that looks are actually the least important. In order to make a character come to life, this is what they do beautifully in animation. You can give a object life by animating it. You can give it a set of objectives and you can give it skills and it becomes a character. It doesn't have to have crazy good looks or awesome looks or interesting looks, but it can definitely supplement and help it to build a character. Since we are focused on good-looking characters, what do good-looking characters need or have? Well, for me, they have three things. They have personality, which we can portray through expressions, attitudes, certain features that they have. They need to be animated. So they need to be brought to life in some type of way so that that personality gets complemented by the actions they do. And then we can also supplement that, especially in animation, with what we call shape language. Shape language is sort of this catalyst between animation and personality that just kind of unifies everything and makes it easier to understand the character. Now, here begins my rant. Here are two of my favorite characters, Timon and Pumbaa. Absolutely love these characters. I loved them as a child. I still love them today in the original Lion King movie. Why? They embody all of the three things I just discussed. They have incredible personality, different personality. They are animated perfectly to match those personalities. And they have the exact shape language you would expect that fits their personality, body type, or animal type. And here is why I think live action remakes are clusterfucks of movies. And I'm sure a lot of you can argue, I loved it. I loved it. Well, you may have loved it. That's fine. But if they are killing what makes a character, the story itself diminishes because the characters drive the story. And the problem with a live action remake is that you get the costume problem. You're having talking costumes that are not well animated. They lack a lot of personality because they cannot insert it into them because there's no animation. And so you're losing a lot of character to drive the story. And you're losing a lot of relatability as the audience to connect with the characters and the story. Now, of course, some of you might be thinking, well, Antonio, it's not really a fair comparison because we're looking at animation versus live action, and it's just a different technique and a different vibe. Well, I don't agree with that because there's live actions that do that brilliantly. Especially if we look at Lord of the Rings or even The Hobbit, if you look at Smaug or Smeagol, they have been animated and been built into characters fantastically. They display personality or even dual personality. They display a lot of animation that complements that personality, and their shape language perfectly complements the two. For Smaug, it's easy because that triangular, sort of very dominant shape language. For Smeagol, it's both, right? He has that sharper edge and he has that soft edge. That's why he has the big eyes and almost looks like an infant to portray that infant-like version of him. So there's like a perfect combination of how shape language acts as a catalyst between the personality and the animation. And then you have to ask yourself the question, like, how far are they going to push this? If we have a movie like An Ass Life, and are they going to turn that into a live action movie? I hope not. I certainly hope not. But I wouldn't be surprised at this point. But you can see how you can really kill animation and character if you turn something into live action, especially if you don't do it the right way. And so for me, personality is really big when it comes to designing characters. And there's sort of these two ways that you can do that, right? If we talk about the personality aspect, then you can really make that come to life in the faces. You can make them look a certain way, make them feel a certain way, make them have a certain expression that either makes them like batshit crazy or very confident or very curious. You can do that. You can experiment with that. But it's not only there. You can definitely also do it in their poses. You can create a casual character. You can create a curious character. You can create an adventurous character, or you can create a damn right cocky character just by the way that you pose them. And if you bring that together with good facial expressions, you're starting to build that character. And then you can act or use shape language as a catalyst for both of them. And so this is usually what I do. And that's why I think an emphasis on animation, if you want to create characters, is very, very important because you want to bring a character to life. And that also helps any department that you're a part of if you're in a professional setting. If you want to be a character concept artist, you want to help the 3D team. If you can animate your character and you can bring their personality to life just with an image, you're massively helping the 3D team, the anime team, even the sound design team. So I think this is crucially important and a really important skill to have when you want to bring characters to life. Because you can do the boring T poses, you can, but they shouldn't be the first way your character is presented because you're killing all of the life out of the character with a T pose. It just kills all of the character. It's good for the 3D team, but it kills the character. And another thing that I really want to mention here that's so important about if you're able to animate your character in your ideation phases, right? When you bring a character to life, you can still have different visual looks for that character and its personality. As long as you stay sort of true to what you think their personality is, what their skills might be, how you want to animate them, you can still have different versions of them. And I think what is really, really important and what will definitely set you apart from AI, what AI cannot do, is the ideation phase itself. Because you don't start with the thumbnails I have here on the right. You start with the ideation phase, and this is uniquely human, especially with character art, because you're actually just trying to imagine something that has a certain personality, that has certain objective, that is animated in a certain way. And if you can ideate that with in different sort of ways and bring it to life, and you can make like 6 characters come to life, out of those 6 characters, you can then choose one that perfectly matches what either a client wants or you want, but you really have this unique skill set to bring things to life that AI, even though they want to push it very hard, does not have. And so, in the topic of shape language, what I think is important as well to mention is you need to understand what shape language is and how you can push it further than what probably most of you just understand of it, which is like the surface level of it. So, shape language on the surface level would be the squares, the circles, the triangles, and what they represent. But you can go a lot deeper and also include like symbolic shape language. Now, symbolic shape language is basically using symbolism and mythical items to infuse into the design of your character to further emphasize their personality or their actions or their intent or even their skills. And if we look at 3 examples, because this can go very broad, all right? This can go from very cartoony to very realistic and anything in between. If you look at Pokemon, that is all shapes. That is just shapes. A bit of symbolism here and there as well, but just a pure focus on shapes, basically. Now, if you look at the characters from Overwatch, one of my favorite character designs, they are so well designed when it comes to shape language because there's a lot of symbolism. If you look at Reaper here, there's a lot of symbolism in how he is created and what he represents. And therefore, you sort of get a feel of his personality and how he would even be animated. And then on top of that, you can have something very realistic, but still symbolic. When you look at Jodie Foster here from the movie, I think Contact. By the way, I know this from Mike Hill. These are not my words, but at least like here, Jodie Foster doesn't represent a like a sci-fi suit. It doesn't feel like a sci-fi suit, and it's not meant to look like one. It is meant to look like a more medieval version of a sci-fi suit. Reason for that is that she's supposed to almost symbolize Joan of Arc. And if you understand that, you understand her fate as well. And so you can do a lot with symbolism and mythology in your shape language. And again, shape language is not only for stylization, it's also in real life. Again, Lord of the Rings, perfect example. If we look at the 2 wizards here on the screen, you have Gandalf and you have Saruman. And both of them are wizards, but both of them have a very unique feel to them. Gandalf has a lot more roundish and triangular shapes to emphasize that power, but softness that he has inside, whereas Saruman has a bit of that symbolism, bit of that almost like you see the skull through his face, as well as that triangular shape of power. His hair is a lot more straight, his nose is more crooked and sharp. All of this can be subtly infused into your characters, and something I really like to do as well when I try to create my semi-realistic characters is play with the subtleties of shape language to make that come to life. And so, as you see as well, even for the characters that I did for the King Arthur challenge, I'm thinking about symbolism. I'm thinking about how can I represent in a young Arthur still that he's powerful, but also youthful. So I'm using shape language. Whereas when he's grown up, I use another type of shape language, both in his stance, maybe in his look even, and the way he's just presenting himself to be more squarish, to be more of that strength, that powerhouse that you would expect King Arthur to be. So you can really play with that and elevate your characters to another level. So all in all, I want to just say that you can really play with this. And when it comes to my own process, what I like to do is I like to switch between the two. I like to first maybe think about the pose. How will I do the pose? How will that pose make the character come to life? Sometimes I will also just play with expressions. Like I will start the expression of a character. I did this with clients a lot, by the way, that I would start with the bust of the character, design that, make the personality come to life, make their expression come to life, because based on that, I can already imagine the rest of the figure and the pose. I don't need to do a lot then. It's a really good method for me to make a character come to life. Just starting with the bust, their expression, how they would act, how they would look at the camera or not look at the camera. And based on that, I can create an entire body from that. So there's lots of different ways that you can start creating characters. But I think if you keep the things in mind that I mentioned in this video, you'll have just a better sense of how to make a character actually relatable and not an avatar. Now, that's not to say that in my professional career, I didn't create avatars, okay? I did that. I did the avatar designs, I did the costume designs, I did the wacky designs. But for me, these are not characters. They're fun avatars, right? But they would rarely be relatable unless they are, again, infused in some type of story and they are brought to life with good animation and emotion. Because it's not like we always need very humanistic features to make something come to life. But part of animation does require some type of animation. Even if you look at Wally, one of the best characters made in animation, he still has very expressive eyes and he's animated in a way that brings his personality to life. So overall, this is a very important part of making a character. So remember, a good-looking character has personality, supported by animation, and also supported by shape language. Avatars are cool, but do you think they're really characters? That's a question I'll leave up to you. As always, thank you for watching. I want to mention some people in this talk, though. Two people in particular, Jeremy Bernstein from GDC, that has a great talk on characters in general, and Mike Hill from the video Cookie Monster that has a brilliant breakdown on some of the issues in the entertainment industry right now as well. So definitely watch them if you want to, if you're interested in more of this type of content. All right. As always, stay creative and happy drawing.